Are you just a particle of dust within this existence? Or there's more?
Well, definitely we are. From the scientific part, we know that we are nature and we live in a natural process. And our nature part works as any other natural being.
I'll explain to you later.
We're born, we live, we die, that's for sure. The other part, which, well, we don't know, we can imagine it, we can discuss about it, but always from a non-scientific perspective. And so I think it's all about faith, whether you feel it or not. Right now I'm kind of struggling with that faith, so you can tell me about what you think that there's afterlife. I can tell you about what I think
talk about the
afterlife.
Later. Let's talk about this life first.
So what do you want me to talk about?
This life, this reality that we can observe and we can experience.
Yeah.
Has it always been there? Or did it have an existence, beginning?
It had to have a beginning.
Okay. So this universe hasn't always been there in existence. So you go in line with the current thinking in most of the scientific models that this universe had a beginning. A few billion years ago, 13.7 or whatever billion years ago, right?
Yeah.
It started with a big explosion of Big Bang, prior to which there was nothing. Okay? So people, the minds who study astrophysics, study cosmology, we're talking about scholarship in this area, they have different opinions whether there has been a singularity always, from which, and one form that they rise from the singularity, which is our universe, or there was nothing, but this nothing again wasn't nothing, it was something, like we're talking about the model Professor Lawrence Krauss describes. His nothing is not really nothing, his nothing is something. Some kind of thing which, there is...
Professor Lawrence from the Reasonable Faith, maybe? Or maybe I'm mixing
he's
two
a world-renowned scientist.
Yeah, okay.
He's published a book which is quite concrete for most of the people as a common being. When the universe from nothing is a book. He's given lots of lectures on this.
Yeah.
So others describe that there are other universes, so we call it multiverses, multiple universe, multiverse. Yeah. Ours is just one of those bubbles. Okay? Various theories. So some are of the opinion that there was always something, others there was nothing, but again they're confused, I would say in my words, what this nothing is, because they're differentiating between the philosophical nothing, when we say nothing is nothing, and yet they're actually putting some characteristics and making it something, like there's some fluctuations going on and vertical particles coming out from it. That's not nothing, that's something. So, what is your understanding? Because if there was absolutely nothing, then do you think there will be something? If there was nothing to begin with?
That's a really difficult question, but everything has to come from something else. So at the real beginning, I don't know what was that fire that began it all. But I can only talk about nature, so I cannot go like trillions of years ago and what the Earth or the universe or the multiverse or whatever you said was. But I think the only way to study that is science. But I understand the question where, like, from what everything begins. Like, okay, let's say everything began with a God that created. Where does this God come from?
You can ask the same question. Wherever that God came from, something, if it is something, what that something came from. So you can carry on asking the questions, right? So we are now facing something called like an infinite regress. Is it the term we can look this up?
Yeah.
So let me give you some examples how we can solve this problem by understanding the example. if something has happened already, like an action has taken place, like this universe has come into existence, is it possible there were causes prior for this universe, causes for this universe coming to existence?
Yeah.
There are infinite number of them in the past. Because the question that I'm answering, what caused that creator? Right? When you say, okay, well, let's say creator and God created this universe, then one can say, what created this God or creator? And why stop there? What created that God which created this God which created the universe? And you can carry on like this, okay? So if you have this universe and you have one God there was created by another God, created by another God, and you go on ad infinitum, right? This is one way of looking at these things. But how rational is this? Because we have to be rational in our thinking.
I think from the God perspective and the spiritual perspective, since we're talking about another dimension, time is not as we, like, there's no time. So I think we're discussing about something that it just doesn't exist in the perspective of...
We're talking about cause. The universe
yes,
came into existence, as you said.
yes,
With a cause which you describe, let's say it's called God. Okay? So God was the cause of this universe. The universe didn't come into existence by itself while it was nothing. Because if it was nothing, let's understand this a little bit more slowly. If there was nothing to begin with, nothing means there was no energy,
okay,
no something, no matter, no fluctuations, no quanta, no gravity, no quarks, right? There is nothing. So from this nothing, you cannot get something, because something, to get something, you need energy. This something is energy, right?
Yeah.
Matter and energy, they're invertible. So if you have nothing to begin with, there always will be nothing. So the idea, some people say, oh, nothing can give rise to something, it's not really a rational way of thinking. Because if you have nothing, you end up with nothing. There's always going to be nothing, because if you're absolute nothingness. If you do have something, then the question is, what is this cause? And when we go and asking what is the cause of that cause, if we want to continue questioning this.
yeah,
So, whether there is infinite causes for our universe, or the causes end somewhere. If it ends somewhere, we will say this is the first cause.
yeah.
So these are the two options. We want to know which one is most rational.
Yes.
Okay. Let's take the one which is infinite number of causes. Okay. If it was infinite number of causes, then I would say this universe will never come to existence. Never. It will not come to a point when it will exist. Do you know why? Let me give you a scenario to understand this. Let's say you are the librarian.
Okay.
And I want to borrow a book from you.
Sure.
Okay? Me and you. There are infinite number of people in front of me.
Okay.
So the action of book borrowing needs to take place, that is, from your hand to my hand. I need to get this book. That's the action to take place. Now before that happens, there's someone else, and someone else, and someone else. Infinite number of people.
Yeah.
Never ending. So I am on a chain of this borrowing queue. Would I ever borrow the book from you?
No.
Never. Because there's always going to be someone in front of me. It will never take place. I will never get the book in my hand. The reason being there are infinite number of causes. So that demonstrates if there were infinite causes for our universe would not come into existence. Because there will be, these causes will be causing by something else, will be caused by some other causes. And the universe, the end universe will never come into existence, just like the book borrowing will never come into existence. So how do we know that this is not how it happened, or it's not the most rational way of thinking and coming to the conclusion? It's because the universe exists. The action has taken place. The action of universe coming to existence has taken place just like the book has been borrowed. If I get the book on my own hands from you, then you know for sure there weren't infinite number of people. Because I have got the book.
Yeah.
If the universe has come into existence, we know there cannot be infinite number of causes. There cannot be. That means the cause of this universe ends somewhere. And that end is the first cause. The philosophers have described this quite, aptly and, intelligently in thousands of years ago, if not, from the very beginning of people's thinking when they came up with this. Just talking about the universe. The Greeks, for example, and others, they talked about this. Aristotle, I think, called it the prime mobile, the first cause, if I'm not mistaken. So, when we are using our scientific perspective in understanding the world, we do know if our world has come into existence, the causes of our world at the end is a finite cause. Something, not finite cause, finite chain of causes. Somewhere it ends, and that is the first cause. So the question now would be, this first cause, obviously, prior to it cannot be another cause, because otherwise we're going to the same problem. What caused the cause? So we are now coming to a point where we're saying there is a cause, prior to that there is no cause. So we call this cause the independent cause. The one thing that is independent, not dependent on something else. Absolute. It's an absolute cause. Absolute and independent, from which the universe came to be. Whether there were millions and zillions of gods or creators in middle or not, what's important is that there is a cause which is the very first. Of course, as Muslims, we don't believe there are millions of gods and demigods and other creators.
Yeah, of course.
God is the only one.
Yeah.
Okay? Who is the first cause of everything? Who is the originator? It's called Badi'us Samawati wal Ard. Quran describes the originator of the heavens and the earth. Do you follow?
I follow, but I think I don't share it.
Why not? Share with us why you don't follow.
Okay, for example, you're talking about that you're here between you and me being the library guy. There might be deep infinitive causes. For example, like your perspective is that we are here because of a cause, that someone or something had to want us to be here, and from the scientific perspective, I don't share that things just happen because of a cause, but not because of someone wants that to happen. It is just nature.
That's another thing to talk about. Why we are here from that cause. But do you agree or appreciate at least that there cannot be infinite number of causes for our universe's existence? Because if there were infinite, the universe would not come to an existence. Just like the book borrowing. If there were infinite number of people, I would never take the book from you.
I don't know. It's a difficult question, but I think we are getting to the same point. Like what you're saying is that how everything began from your perspective. Something or someone who want everything to begin.
Now, in terms of wants and will and intention, this is secondary to the question of whether our universe had finite or infinite causes. The cause, whatever it is that brought us into existence, obviously must have certain characteristics, properties or attributes. Whether this cause has intention, will, is what you're now discussing. But I am simply saying, do you at least appreciate that this cause wasn't infinite, but there was a first cause? Because if there was a first cause, the universe would not be here. That is my point. So I'm not going to try to say, okay, agree with me, but I'm just saying, as long as you appreciate it, it's fine. You can give thinking.
I appreciate it because
think about it later on.
Okay.
But as you can see from a rational perspective, it doesn't make sense. There were infinite number of creators or causes. What does make sense?
Because there has to be a first one.
So the next question is, if we have a first cause which brought us into existence, what are the attributes, properties of this cause? The cause cannot be, by definition, limited and finite and dependent, because it means it requires some other cause. So it is independent, it is absolute, as we alluded to earlier. This is one of the characteristics the Quran gives us about the Creator. He is as-Samad. Everything depends on this Creator. And this creator is not dependent on anything or anyone. Okay? Independent, absolute.
Okay.
Someone who is self-sufficient.
Okay, I'm gonna agree with you in this point. So let's say yes, there's like a creator who want everything to start. Because if not, if from the from the scientific perspective, if there's like infinite causes, there has to be a first one who's independent. So, okay, there's a supernatural being who want everything to begin. So, like, let's call it God. Do you think God, everything that happened in the world is the will of God, for example?
Let's take this one step further then. If the creator, God, brought us into existence, as you've already explained to me, there has to be an intention behind this creator. The creator willed it.
Yeah.
So there is a will of the creator for us to exist. Now, whatever happens, either we have our own independent will, or we follow as much as will that's been allowed for us. Okay? We clearly know that we do not have absolute will. Can you fly? Flap your wings. You don't have wings, right?
But that's not my will.
Yes, but even if you will to. Like if I want to fly now, I want to jump up to this space, I can't. I have a will, but I cannot do that because I am not capable of doing this because of restrictions. So my will, even though I have a will, like I want to be the richest man, I don't want to be, but if somebody says I want to be the richest man in this earth, people will so many things, right? But it doesn't materialize. So our will doesn't materialize even though we have the will to will it, okay, but it doesn't really necessarily happen. So the question is, how much of the will is it under our control?
Yeah,
and how much?
I'm talking about the will in terms of our decisions. Like for example, I cannot fly, but I can try to, you know. So like what I'm doing is my decision. So and whatever happens, it was cause of the decisions that I took, of my will. So what I'm asking is, you think that we have the will to take our decisions, or that everything happens because of God's will?
It's a very interesting question. You know, there are some early Muslim scholars, they differed on this and they became two extremes on this very question.
Yeah.
Okay? The position that we are offering in our discussion is the middle position. Okay? Islam is the middle nation. So we don't go into extreme of that extreme of Qadariyah, the other extreme of Jabariyah, which is you have absolute control of your will and everything, or you don't.
Or not.
Okay? But middle way. So what we understand from the teaching of this creator through the prophets and messengers, through the last prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we have a limited amount of free will, which we can exercise and make decisions ourselves on this. Because if we weren't, then we are not responsible for anything. Like we are like robots. Someone's controlling us. Like these string, what do you call, puppets? Yeah. We don't believe we're like that.
If you agree with that, like there's no point on like judging someone if he doesn't have a will. So if there's heaven and hell, people have to have a will. Like so, from that point of view, of course, like not everything that happens in the world is the will of God. It's just the will of man.
So now to talk about, to bring the will of God in perspective from the Islamic understanding, is this: nothing happens except the will of God. Why do I say that? Because this is what the Quran says. Nothing, you cannot will unless God wills. So what happens is this: God allows you to will. Okay? For example, say there's a bad person. He wants to kill someone. Now God could stop that person from doing it, but God allows that person to have that will and be responsible for that action, even though God doesn't intend or wish that people should murder each other, innocent people and so on. But that will is there, so God allows it to happen. But the responsibility or the consequences is on that person, because the person wanted it to happen, and God just, materialized that will to manifest. If I say I'll meet you tomorrow, 10 o'clock, we'll have a lunch, okay, and I die 10 minutes later, I was not in control of my will, okay. So there are things we know for sure that ultimate will is the will of God, because it was His will that I die. It was my will that I meet you. Okay? So ultimate will always takes precedence. But He might will, in accordance with what I want, sometimes He might interfere, right? Okay, these are the times God interferes in His wisdom. Okay? He might stop from, imagine someone wants to hit you or something, and that person just, before they came, just stopped, they couldn't do that, they just fell down. And you just became totally incapable of doing that. We have an example from the biography of the Prophet Muhammad before he was born. One army general called Abraha came to destroy the Kaaba with the army of elephants. He had this intention to destroy, but the elephants would not just move towards the Kaaba. Okay? Because the ultimate will of God was nothing should happen to the house of God, where people should worship God. So there are many examples we can give you about the ultimate will of God, but it's easy to understand that if we had no will whatsoever, we're like robots, then no one can be judged or blamed for anything. We have absolute will for everything, then we should be able to do everything. But we can't do everything, we can't wish anything, everything.
I don't agree with that point.
So, do you agree at least then, there is a middle point where there's a limited amount of free will?
Well, no, actually not. Like, I think we have unlimited free will, but as I explained before, like, we have free will to take whatever decision we want, but we are limited by nature. Like, my will maybe fly, I have the will to, like, take the decision of trying to fly. Nature is
I see your point. From that
flying.
That point, this will that you think you have, yes, this is the will that God allows us to bring it into our thoughts. Right. That's right. So Islam doesn't say, but whether it materializes is a different thing, which you agree with, because manifesting the will is a different thing from willing it. So I might have thoughts, and these thoughts don't materialize. Okay. So there is a will for our existence from the Creator. The question is, why are we here then? Why did this Creator create us? That's the next step. That's the next question we should ask. Are we here for no reason, no purpose at all? Or is there a purpose of our existence?
That's a question I cannot answer.
That's the question that
I cannot answer.
We can think about it, but our thinking will be speculation. And at best it will be speculative. I think we are here to be good. I think it's here to be nice. I think it's here to be generous. People can bring up lots of reasons. But the real purpose, the real reason, can be only known from the Creator Himself, the Creator itself. The Creator tells you, this is the reason I created you. Do you agree? Because we can speculate about so many things.
From the spiritual perspective, of course, I agree.
If you think about this, people have different of understanding in terms of why they're here. Whether they're humanists, atheists, secularists, agnostics, religious people, you can see that people have a lot of difference of opinion exactly what is the purpose of their life. Okay? So, because of these differences, obviously you can't pinpoint to them, okay, that's the real answer, can you? Because who's right? So when you have questions like this, the best solution, or the answer to this question is, the one who created you will tell you. So if I've made something, if I've made an object like this, you can say, oh, you know what, this is for to putting the nail in the ground. You can use that like a metal, piece of metal. But obviously, it might have another purpose, like it's a phone, right, to speak and other things. So the one who makes it will tell you the purpose, why it's made. So it is reasonable to understand that the Creator who created us tells us what the reason is. And this is what we say, that all prophets and messengers, they came, who were the agents of God of this world, as someone guiding us to these questions, clearly told us the purpose purpose of our existence is to acknowledge God, to love God, to worship God.
Yeah.
Okay? To worship, total submission and surrender to our will, to the will of God.
Yeah.
And that then signifies that, okay, the gratitude to this Creator, because the essence of worship is gratitude. We are actually being grateful for everything.
Yeah.
We're showing our gratitude, and this is why every Muslim, every day when they pray, there are 5 times of prayer. They pray 5 times regularly. Within those 5 times of prayer, there are at least 17 times they say like Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen minimum, which means all praise and all gratitude belongs to God, Lord of all the worlds. Okay? So we are constantly, bringing us back to this reality of submission and surrender to this Creator who created us for this purpose.
Yeah.
Now, this is mentioned in the Quran. This is taught by the last Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. This is the message God gave, but there was a series of messengers from the day that God created human beings. Everyone came, when I say everyone, all the guides who were prophets and messengers raised to guide the people, they said the same thing about the purpose of life. Because we're not here to live forever. And history is an evidence that people have died, and people will die, and we will die. We will not gonna live forever. Even though you might have some feelings of immortality that you want to live forever, this is something that God may have created you with this, feeling. You want to live forever. But in fact, in reality, you will be at some point, not now. In this life, there will be a death, which will be a gateway. Because between this life and our death, we have to fulfill the purpose that we are created for, and after that, there will be this eternal life that we so aspire. But this life will be made by what we make of this life.
Yeah. Okay. Well, of course, from the spiritual perspective, I agree with you, because, like, as I told you, like, I'm struggling with my faith, but so I've been raised like in a spiritual perspective, a Christian religion. So in my religious perspective or theory, I totally agree with you. But the thing is, like, talking about this gate to the other dimension and the other life, right there we are like going beyond the nature laws that we know and that we can study and that we can see here in life. So my question is, have you ever seen here in life the laws of nature being broken? Like, because I've never, and I understand like the spiritual perspective, but the thing that makes for me hard to believe right now, like to have faith, is that I've never seen like the laws of nature being broken, and that I have no evidence at all, scientific evidence, in that there may be a second life, which doesn't mean that there won't, but for me it makes it hard to believe it, because I have no evidence at all.
In the times past, the laws of nature which we understand were broken. Even though those things that happened, also within the bigger aspects of laws of God. But from our natural perspective,
they are being broken, but you always keep it in the natural or scientific perspective. Science is evolving. That's why I say not everything that we know is science, but because science 200 years ago would tell us, would describe a different world than the world that we know today from science. So based on that, I can say that science doesn't explain everything, because within 200 years, science is going to tell us things that today we don't know. But the thing is, it is difficult to me, as could be difficult to a person 500 years ago to think that the world was a circle. For me today, it's difficult to think and to believe that there's something else beyond nature. And